All right, here we go. So, everybody, welcome again to my special Halloween podcast that was supposed to be like an hour and a half. But you know me, I can't have 10-minute interview. It's impossible. I talk too much and I make my guests talk too much. So, it's going to be probably a 6-hour edition of the podcast bringing on. And right now, I got my good friend Tracy from Taps home team on the phone. How are you, Tracy?
I am great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's the first persons in my mind when I started doing this was you, Samantha, Brian Kano, and Jay Wazzy, who unfortunately can't do it. But the people, and Dustin. But Dustin is on the road, so he can't do it either. But you've had so many investigations under your belt over the years. I'm not sure there's one human being who's investigated more than you have.
Oh, I don't think. I think Ken DeCosta's up there.
Yeah, you're right. Ken, and Cody. For such a young man.
Absolutely, Cody definitely has probably been on more than me, even in his young years. He was probably doing it like before he was even 16. So.
That's incredible. Starting so young, that's what we talked before, like yesterday I had Samantha Hawes on the podcast and we talked a lot about you, your influence and your leadership in leading and being the lead investigator for Taps home team. But Samantha was born into the paranormal, which is kind of, her father being like one of the pioneers of the new methods of investigating. And that's so cool, to see that like at 10 years old, she was going to Rolling Hills and Penners and Eastern State, and all those locations, that people see on TV are like, oh my God, one day I'd love to go there. But she was like a little kid going there, and that's amazing. And it's probably helping you guys in investigations, right?
It is, absolutely. One thing I do want to throw in is I think that it's a very special case when a child should be investigating the paranormal like that. Obviously, her situation, she had her dad to protect her and guide her. And Cody is just such a special person, but I think it's definitely something that not every young person should get into right away, but we've talked about that before. But having Sam has been so great for us because, I have sometimes you run into a family where it's the teenage daughter or the younger daughter who is experiencing the paranormal because they're at that age where they're more open to it. And I've been, they're really scared and to them it's foreign. And I've been able to take Samantha with us actually to a case in my hometown is what first comes to mind and have her talk to the young person as somebody who grew up, with a different perspective, that it's not scary and that you're not crazy and that it's okay and that you can, they're just people. So it's really neat to have somebody that was brought up always believing and not being, told it's just make-believe and you'll get over it and all that kind of stuff. So it's really nice to have her for a lot of reasons, but that one really in particular.
You're right, because, like I said to her, when I was 12 or 15 years old, if I told my dad, that something paranormal happened to me, he probably would have said that I was crazy. While Samantha telling her dad, he would have said, okay, wait, call Grant and get the gear and let's investigate.
Yeah, come on out. And, it is. I mean, you heard a lot, I think, you think back to your childhood of how many things you may have experienced, but you were told it was make-believe or it wasn't real. You may have been experiencing these things your whole life and never really knew.
That's true. Like for you, Tracy, we talked about on the other podcast, but might have new people that never heard both of us talk together. But when did you start getting involved in the paranormal, and when was also your first experience with the paranormal?
Well, it's funny. I'm one of the unusual people who didn't have any experiences going into it. I didn't have any as a child that I can really think of. But like I said, maybe I did. I had an imaginary friend for years as a child, so who knows? I was told it was imaginary, but maybe it wasn't. But I got into the paranormal. I started with Taps in 8 years ago, so 2008. And I actually just was always interested in the paranormal, and I read, true ghost stories when I was a kid and was always fascinated by the stories of true hauntings and books like that. And I got lucky and was able to get a position with Taps, which has just totally been become my true calling and probably one of the best things that happened to me in my life. And then in 2010, I started as the case manager and lead investigator at Jay's request. That was, again, an honor beyond words. But I would say within the first couple cases, and I joke with people when I present sometimes, I am not afraid to admit, as a TAPS investigator, that the first 2 or so investigations, I was really nervous. You know, I did not know what to expect, and I actually found myself with my eyes closed in the dark a couple times because I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous. You know, you don't know how it's going to be or what it's going to be like.
That's so true, because, you know, I can relate to you, because I'm the same way. You know, I never had any paranormal experience growing up. I never had, because when usually you have people on a podcast, yeah, they go like, oh, when I was 5 years old, when I was 6, 7 or 8. But me, the first experiences that I had was when I started investigating. So you start a little bit like as a skeptic or a molder, you know, I want to believe.
Yeah, I wanted to believe, but I also didn't want to believe either. It was kind of like when you're actually faced with a dark basement, you know?
Exactly.
You're not quite sure if you really want to or not. And once you get the first one under your belt and you start to realize that it's not, you know, it's not earth-shattering, it's just, you know, maybe you get surprised, and 8 years later, I'm sure you know as well, you still get surprised. You still get maybe a little thrown at first, but, you know, it's just, it becomes second nature. Have you found, I'm not sure if have you found that the more you do it, the more things happen to you, you know, in general, paranormal-wise? Yeah,
oh, definitely, yeah. Probably because, like you said, you know, we're kind of looking for it, and we're more open-minded to it.
Yep, and I believe a lot of times, I believe in a lot of ways the spirits somehow know that. They somehow know that maybe you're giving off some sort of energy or something, that you're open to them.
Exactly, and it makes for cool investigations. But sometimes, you know, even when you've been doing it for a long time, you know, you can end an investigation where nothing happens, like we had about a week ago, for hours and hours and hours, absolutely nothing. And then I think that the most important thing is to keep, like, okay, we get nothing tonight. Let's not try to be too much intrusive and come back another night. Because when does, you know, like, okay, we really want to get answers to being like intrusive, or, you know, like when too much is too much.
Yep. And they are people, and I tell people this all the time. They do have a choice, and tonight's just not the night. Tonight's not the night. They don't feel like it. They don't. Who knows what's going on in their world? You know, just like us, they have things, and they don't know us, and so you just have to kind of I tell people all the time, it's like fishing, you know, you go out sometimes and you cast a million times and you get nothing. And then all it takes is that one bite every once in a while to keep you hooked.
That's so true. That's so true. And, you know, Tracy, that's something I realized, because when I talk to my coworkers or my friends or people on Twitter, sometimes they don't understand. So I'd like you'll explain it better than me, but a lot of people are confused by TAPS hometeam, and, oh, there's more than one TAPS. Yeah, there's more than one TAPS for sure, you know, but explain to me more the concept, how it started, and how it grew into this almost, you know, phenomenon all across the United States and across the world, you know. Tell me more about the foundation of TAPS and how it grew into the TAPS hometeam and then divided to other teams.
Okay, so first of all, just there's only one TAPS group. The same, you know, the Atlantic Paranormal Society was founded in 1990 by Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson, as we know. So people should know right off the bat that was a long time before a TV show. This group wasn't founded to make a TV show. This group was founded because both of our founders had some pretty life-changing paranormal experiences that made them want to help other people who may be going through the same thing to understand. So the show approached them, you know, Sci-Fi approached them, and they started the show in 2004. And as you know, can imagine, it just grew to be something where they were traveling and they were away from what really was the core of what they wanted to do, which was help people in their homes. So the TAPS home team is the same exact group that you see on TV. There's only one Atlantic Paranormal Society. We're not like an offshoot or a sect or a spin-off. We are the group. It's just that they wanted to have a core team, and there's 10 of us now who stay behind in New England doing what they founded the group to do. So like 97% of our cases, 98% are in client homes in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, even in New Hampshire. We just stay behind and carry out that original mission. And then there's a broader network, which is called the TAPS family. And those are individual groups, other groups who have maintain their own name and their own logo and all that stuff, but they become part of our family. And that way, all across the United States and other countries, we're able to refer cases to these groups that have applied and subscribed to the same philosophies and whatnot, and that we can refer cases to, because obviously, we can't get all around. We're in New England, so we do work with those other groups as well to make sure that people get the help that they need.
That's amazing. That's amazing. We talk about para-unity a lot, and that's para-unity. And it goes back way before, it became an hashtag on Twitter. It goes back to, like you said, 1990, being own cases. So that's a big thing. People see Ghost Hunter show on TV. They see, Steve, Tango, Jay, and Grant back in the day, and Amy and everybody. But the fact of the matter is, the goal never changed. It's to help people. So 98% of what you do, guys, are not going to be seen on YouTube videos or the evidence shown on Facebook or whatever. The basic of the team is to help people. It's not to get publicity. Publicity came in spite of, the original intent. But the team never changed. That's what I said after the show this week when the season finale. I said, from day one to the end, it never changed and never will change. It's about helping people and being respectful.
Yep, and a lot of people I've seen, on posts and whatnot, a lot of people think that Taps is going away because the show has ended for now. But Taps is not going anywhere just because Ghost Hunters is not on Sci-Fi. Taps was around long time before the show, and we're going to still be here doing what we did back then in 1990. We're very busy. We are out. My guys, my team, and I are out for some. At some points during the year, every weekend. Sometimes we even have to double up in a weekend. So there's a lot of people that without the groups that are out there, they wouldn't get the help that they need, and that was what Jason and Grant wanted, and that's what we still promise our clients.
And there's great investigators in your team, all of them are absolutely amazing. Everybody brings something different to the table, like
Absolutely.
You. And tell me more about your teammates, like my good friend Cody that I'm going to have on the podcast later on this afternoon. But Cody, there's something about Cody that, if you don't like Cody, it's impossible. It's impossible not to like this kid.
Cody, I tell him all the time, it's hard for me to remember sometimes that he's 22 years old. He is wise beyond his years, and his heart is bigger than probably so many people that I've ever met. And he's just an incredible survivor and an incredible inspiration to so many people. And he's so just such an asset to the team. I go to him for advice all the time. But that everybody, Joe and Wellington Chin, Christine, they all have something different that they bring to the table. Steve Mills is our he's like the fastest evidence reviewer I've ever seen. He was at every single case. I missed by one case, but he was at every single case we did last year.
Wow.
So that's just the dedication. Tom, everybody, Ken, it's, maybe Steve's not so great, and I make fun of him all the time. He doesn't like to write case reports, but you know what? That's okay. I can take his evidence, and I can write the case report for him because he has so much else to bring to the table that it doesn't matter. And some of the best advice that I got as I started out in this role, Grant told me, don't give people titles. Don't give them titles. Let their natural abilities come out, and you will know. Don't pigeonhole people into a certain role. Let them grow and let them become what they're going to become. And that the team is, I can't ask for a better team. They're really my family. They really are. That's
amazing. That's so true, Tracy, because, tagging somebody like, okay, you're the tech, you're the sound guy. Well, maybe he's got, maybe it's not necessarily what he wanted, but, in a way, if you tag the guy, the technician, then he's going to put all his energy towards making sure, the equipment, the batteries are in, and that the angle of the camera is good. So you're taking away maybe other abilities that he has that if you, like you said, you just let it shine, and you can be surprised sometimes, that some members of your team, I have a teammate, Pat, he started out just filming. You never ask a question. I would ask him, do you want to ask a question during MVP sessions? And he would say no. And little by little, it took about 1.5 years, and the first thing you know, he's almost leading the investigation now because it came to him like all of a sudden, by listening to us, by watching videos, by watching TV shows, and learning from everybody and taking what he thinks is, little pieces of, I like this style and this style and this style, and combines it into his own style.
Yep, and I think that especially in this field, you need to use the abilities that you have, and those abilities might change, and he might be a tech person today, but next year he's all of a sudden your best, EVP session leader. You have to let people just continue to grow and change and adjust. And that's the beauty of having no particular roles, is because you just never know what people are going to want to try next time around.
And step up to the plate, because you can't have a night off. It happened to me like last week. I was feeling so, it's kind of like, a hockey game, you feel okay, and then the game starts and you feel like crap, and you go like, oh, holy cow, even if the net was 20 feet wide, I wouldn't score a goal tonight. So I felt like that. I felt like, I wouldn't want to talk to myself tonight. So why would spirits want to talk to myself? So I just stayed in the background and, we didn't catch anything, but at the same time, I don't know if I felt better or in better mood. Maybe I would have. I don't know. We'll go back. We told the guy we'll be back next week and, start anew. And sometimes, it takes a while for the spirits to get, who are these guys? They come in, and we always try not to bring, like you guys, not too much equipment, because when you do, it's almost like, oh my God, but we bring as little equipment as we have to. A camera, ghost box, my EVP recorder. That's, try to stay as light as possible. And to me, that's something I learned through the years, and even more lately. If you rely too much on your equipment, then you're missing out on what truly matters, is the sound around you, the sound of the house, and all those. That's true, huh?
Yes, exactly true. And I think that the most important thing that we tell people all the time, and I'm sure you agree, the most important tools we have are our senses.
Exactly.
And if you're staring at a piece of equipment, and meanwhile, the spirit has manifested right in front of you, and you weren't looking up because you were staring at the K2 meter, you've missed that. You've missed that.
That's so true. And, that's something that you also told me and taught me, is that when you rely on equipment, the minute you spend, setting up your ghost box or setting up your REM pod or whatever, well, you lost that minute. And when you get interaction, the first thing you got to do is to take advantage of it while you have it. Because to me, it's happened, like I know it has for you too. You get to a place, you get activity straight off the bat, and then you take for granted that, oh my God, it's going to be incredible. And then it lasts 10, 15 minutes, and that's it. That's all you got from the whole night. So those 15 minutes, you spend 10 minutes, okay, go get more cameras, go get this, go get that. Well, you maybe missed the whole conversation.
Yeah, because it takes them a lot of energy to do the things they do, and I consider every moment of interaction that I have with them to be an honor, and I want to give them my full attention, because I do know, I don't know, but I understand how hard it is for them to do everything that they do, to communicate with us.
I think it would be hard for total strangers to get people inside the house, open the door, and even the owners of the house sometimes are shy, and they're not absolutely comfortable telling their stories, because most of the time when they told people, they were either laughed at or, oh no, it's just your imagination. So when we come in, 5, 6, 2, 3 of us, and we're very open-minded, it's kind of intimidating to them to open up, and not just to the spirits, but I always say, like I said with Samantha yesterday, that 50% of our job is with the owners of the house or the owners of the place where we go investigate, right? And that's where your job comes in, because am I right? You're the one that most of the time get in touch with the owner, take the case, do the interview beforehand. That's one of your jobs, right?
That's that's primarily what I do. I obviously do investigate, but I am the only one on our team most of the time who's taking the calls, and I feel that's an honor too, because I'm the first person. I need to always make sure I'm on my game, and I try to always get back to people as soon as I can, and when I promise to, because I understand that I am their first contact. If they're afraid or they're frightened, I'm their first glimpse of hope that things are going to get better. So I honor that, and I think that it's important. And I think a lot of, unfortunately, sometimes groups get too into the investigation to understand that people have to live in this place. They are afraid or they're uncomfortable. This is their home. It's not about investigating totally. It's about also, like you said, it's about helping the clients to feel better and to feel comfortable in their home, because fundamentally that's what we're there to do.
Exactly, and we leave. At 3, 4 a.m. we get to get back home, but they stay there. So if we make things worse than it was before, what is the point of us doing what we do?
And that's why it's so frustrating to me. So many groups, telling clients all over the place, oh, you have a demon, you have this, with no reason to believe that whatsoever, no evidence to support that. And then they leave, and now, these people are terrified. That just because they want to make themselves look like the hero, or they want to sensationalize something. Groups need to stop and think before they speak to these clients. Like you said, you go home. They live there every day. We had a client that we've been recently working with. We went there 3 or 4 times, where the stepdaughter, who's in her 20s, was told that you need to move away from your parents because you are never going to be safe here.
Wow, that's incredible.
What is wrong with people that say that?
It's like doing a Ouija session and the Ouija telling you kill your mom, and you go out and you kill your mom. I was listening to Robert Murch last night on Talk Is Jericho podcast talking about the Ouija board, and he's like, okay, I got 1,000 Ouija board at home. I've done thousands of Ouija sessions, and nothing negative ever happened to me. It's kind of like what you make of it. You can, if you want to go like, oh my God, there's something, doing a ghost box session, an EVP session, where whatever we do, we open the door, whether it's the Ouija board, an EVP session, or just us showing up, open-minded. It's a doorway for them to interact with us. So it's our responsibility.
The one thing about the Ouija board I remind people is that when we're doing an EVP session, we are not offering up ourselves as a means of communication. For example, for me, like the Ouija board, and what I learned and what I tell people is, you're technically, if you're offering up your motor skills, or like with automatic writing or even mediumship, you're offering more. When you're offering something of yourself for them to use, whatever's there, that's when you put yourself at a greater risk. But if you know how to protect yourself, and mediums go out every day and do what they do, Tiffany Rice and everything, but they know how to protect themselves. And that's the most important thing.
That's true. Like Tiffany, shout out to her. She's amazing. And I was just, I know I said it to you before, but the first time I saw Tiffany was at a paint house in Rhode Island, and I was investigating. It was my first time investigating with Taps on team. Joe was there, Christine was there, Steven was there, Ken was there, and I remember they were inside the living room, and I was just walking around the house, just touring, and then I'm going inside the house. I never talked to her. Nobody said I was there. And she said, I feel that Sarah Elizabeth is there. And I felt something beside me. And I caught something on my ghost box, a little girl's voice. So she's like, but she's with a man, from another country who speaks a different language. And I was like, yeah. I'm from Canada. I speak French, so that was incredible. And she said my name, she said, I think your name is Dom. I said, Dominic, but yeah, Dom that's how everybody calls me. Yep. So that was my first time meeting Tiffany. And I'm still amazed at how talented she is, how wonderful of a person she is too.
Yeah, and like, you had said it before too about, when you were just saying about how you had an off night the other night and you were able to recognize that. I think the most important thing we can do too as investigators is to know our own limits. And I tell people that all the time. There is no shame in saying, tonight's not my night, I can't go. Even if it's at the last minute, and that's why having everybody be whatever role that they need to be at that moment is also important, because if you are the only tech guy and you can't go, somebody else needs to step up, but you also need your team to be understanding, and that's what makes a good team, is to support each other. So it's important, I think, to know your limits and to set boundaries and to know how to protect yourself, because this isn't a game. A lot of people, I think, go into this, unfortunately, thinking it's just something to do for fun, and it's not. It's something that you need to take very seriously, because you're dealing in something that no one totally understands.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's so true. Yeah, to a lot of people, it's just fun and games. And since it's a Halloween podcast, Tracy, I cannot let you go without asking you the two questions I ask everybody. The first is being the creepiest, experience that you ever had during all your years of investigating. Could be a private home, doesn't necessarily have to go with the location, but the creepiest thing that happened to you through the years, what would it be?
I knew as soon as I saw what your question was going to be, I knew right away what place I was going to talk about. It jumped right into my mind, and I use it a lot during my presentations to explain to people that this isn't always what it seems to be in this field. And this was a private home in Taunton, Mass, and we went there on a Monday night, which is unusual for us. Normally we try to do them on the weekends. It's late, you're tired, you have to work, but it was kind of one of those cases where everything was setting up, and we something in each of us separately in our guts knew what we were doing wasn't right. Like, I was like, oh, I shouldn't be going on a work night, I'm so tired, but long story short, we ended up going, and it was, seemingly harmless, just a house, built in the 70s, nothing too, no creepiness, no haunted Victorian look, just a regular house, and we were greeted by totally, normal clients, but a couple of the things that we found out right off the bat were that they had a car accident in front of their house, and a gentleman, a young man, had died on their front lawn the homeowner's arms, the husband's arms, and then the daughter's boyfriend had overdosed in their house on drugs, and she had also been interested, the mom had been interested in all sorts of things like, mediums and Reiki, and so she was kind of just going online and research, not even really knowing who she was going with, and having these people come over and do like 30 people parties at her house and doing all these readings and doing like group Reiki sessions. So it seemed like, she was just kind of...
She was stirring the pot, Yes. My God.
Yes, and so when we got to the house, it was, like I said, very normal. We started off, it was very quiet, not a lot of activity, some banging, things like that. But I was very uncomfortable. I knew something was wrong from the minute we walked in that house. I just had I'm not usually afraid to investigate. I'm never afraid. I was afraid in this house. The only place I felt safe in the entire house, and I joke was because he's so big, was sitting next to Steve.
Yeah.
But soon I realized I could see Christine was kind of going through the same thing. I could see it on her face. The girls were the ones who were feeling it. The guys, they felt nothing. And so as the night went on, it got to the point where literally we were sitting in the hallway at one point of the bed. It was a kind of a house where the bedrooms are along the hallway, and there was one at the end, which is where the boyfriend had died. And it was just like a wind was coming out of this bedroom. And finally it got so bad that Christine and I had to go outside. We literally, the two of us were like, let's get out of here. And we stepped outside, and it got worse. We were on the front lawn, and we're like huddled together, just trying to calm down and trying to gather. Of course, the clients did not see any of this, which we made sure of. But we literally watched the front light on the house blink on and off, on and off. And apparently, meanwhile, the guys inside were asking the client, is there something wrong with your front light? Is it a motion light? And they're like, no, we don't know why it's doing this. Christine watched a huge shadow come down the front walkway toward us that she thought was Steve coming out of the house. It was dark, of course. He never came. We watched shadows. We had shadows running at us out of the woods. It was just, I was literally at this point terrified. And I knew, and we both knew that we couldn't go back in the house. We can't. We knew what we knew. And so we called up the guys, and we're just like, I said, listen, we got to pull out of here. We can't keep going. Oh, and the other thing was while the light was blinking on and off, the guys inside heard the back door. They heard someone come up the steps. The back door opened and closed, and then footsteps inside the house.
My goodness.
Yeah, so we called, and I said, tell them we're sick. Tell them one of us got sick. We can't gather our equipment. We can't even go back inside. And unfortunately, like I said, Steve, Wellington, they didn't feel that we did, but they believed us. And they said, okay, if we need to come back here another time, we will, but you guys, we'll go. And that's what we did. But I have never, ever felt that way in a house, really.
And did you guys go back later to...
Actually, the client never contacted us again. I of course, said, hey, they basically, I emailed her the following Monday or whatever and said, we're really sorry that we had to leave. We definitely would like to come back for a follow-up. Please let us know what works for you. And I never heard from her again.
Okay.
So we didn't go back. I almost think in a way she knew that she had brought something on herself. Maybe. I'm not really sure. But it was definitely not. If you looked at the house, you would never think that you would get those feelings. But it was literally. Christine and I are both very comfortable investigating.
Oh my God! Yeah.
We're literally hugging each other on the front lawn.
My God. And two seasoned experienced investigators, Christina, like you, she's been doing it for a long time, and she's very calm and very, she's kind of like Joe, she's very calm, very collected. I've had a chance to investigate maybe 5 or 6 times with Christine. It's always very fun to investigate with her. She's always, and when you take a break, funny as hell.
Yes, she is. Yeah, and it's just and like I said, it was important that we made sure that the client did not know. We didn't go running out of the house like some people might, screaming, like anything like that. We just casually removed ourselves from the situation, and we tried to gather ourselves, and we just couldn't. We gathered ourselves, but we knew we couldn't go back in, and that it wasn't safe for us. And Jay's famous line, I tell groups this all the time. Jay's famous line, "When in doubt, get the hell out."
Yep.
It has to ring true, and you have to be able to trust your group enough to say, here I am, the case manager, as a lead investigator, and I'm calling Steve and saying, I can't go back in there. I won't. And he was like, okay, no problem. We're packing the stuff right now. We'll take care of it.
That's a team, You believe it happened to me once in an investigation where my teammate said, "Dom, we gotta leave," and I didn't feel anything bad, but I left, and I was believing him. I looked at him and I saw that there was something affecting him, and I said, "No problem, we're leaving right now." Never okay, you can leave and then come pick me up later. No. If one member leaves, everybody leaves. It's like,
yep.
We're going in this together and we're leaving together.
Yep, exactly.
And the creepiest place in your that you've been in those years of investigating, like you go in and a place where maybe you would still have chills just thinking about going back.
Penhurst, and I didn't Penhurst Asylum, and I didn't even really investigate there. We were just there. That was in 2011 when 5 of us were able to go and be on the live show. It just came up on my Facebook. It was actually today and yesterday, I believe, or today and tomorrow that we were on our way there to film. It was in 2011. Penhurst was just, I think, so we got a tour, and even just being, we were in Command Central. It was myself, Tom still in the group, and then Christine and a couple other people who are no longer in the group that got to go. And even just being in Command Central, we were getting, our jackets tugged on, and we were set up inside, but your jacket slash, insane asylum. And back then, when it opened, the sad fact was that they were overcrowded. They were basically 2 categories of patients back then, which they called imbecile or insane. And an imbecile could be somebody, unfortunately, who had a stutter or who had cerebral palsy or was mentally retarded, disabled. Back then, people didn't understand, and they would put them with these criminally insane people and leave them there overcrowded. And, they had a dental chair where they would pull out people's teeth if they bit another patient. It was just the sadness and the overwhelming just suffering that had gone on there. It was very, very powerful and very, very creepy and sad.
Brian Kano, Mark Arvilla, me, and MJ, my teammate, that's the place they name, and we've been to a lot of those institutions like Letchworth. But yeah, I agree, Penhurst, there's something there that just makes you feel uncomfortable. Totally. Especially in the Devon building, where you go in the basement, where they used to have you still see like, drawings of kids on the wall, and you go like, holy cow, it just feels wrong.
All I kept thinking was about when I was driving in there, as they drove us in the vans the 2 days. Imagine being a child in the back of a car and being brought there and dropped off. I couldn't even imagine. And, And that's another place where I just hope that investigators who go there understand that people suffered. Like, treat them with the respect that they deserve. They've been through enough.
Exactly.
You know?
The documentary ABC did on it, Suffer the Children, when a reporter from ABC, kind of went there. Nobody knew, and he filmed for 2 days, and that's when they closed the building in 1980 something. We're not talking about the early 1800s. We're talking like 30 years ago. And the kids, were and oh my God, they were. I just can't even talk about it. And when they left, the kids at Penner's, they had to sign a waiver that they would never, ever come back to see them, visit them, or to take them back. They never would. So imagine, like you said, 5-year-old, last time he'll ever see his father, just because he's stuttering or because he has a problem. That to me is absolutely the worst thing in the world.
And there's a place nearby to me that it was on an episode of Ghost Hunters called Norwich State Hospital, and it's very similar, a lot smaller than Penhurst, but it's actually, a lot of it's been torn down now. But it was the same thing. That did not close, 100 years ago. That closed 30 years ago. Like you said, this kind of stuff was unfortunately still going on. I mean, the punishment and the people were packed in ice and things like that. And now it's very sad because now they've torn down these buildings and they're talking about building residential, facilities, hotels. Like, it's almost like you just wish that land could just be left as some sort of memorial, or
Agreed.
There's probably still a lot of troubled souls there that don't understand what's going on.
Totally agree. Like Denver's, they turn into condominiums, and when you drive there, you still feel the sadness and everything, and it's near where you live, in Denver's, Massachusetts, and they kept the facade of the buildings, but now people live there, elderly people, and you're like, I'd be surprised how many people experience paranormal stuff there.
Yep, and I was saying the one thing when they announced very recently that someone had purchased the Norwich State land, I said to myself, well, there might be some more cases close to home for me, because that's not going to stop because something else is built there. That energy is still in that environment. It's not going away.
Exactly. So, hey, Tracy, I thank you so much for your time. Like we said, a 15-minute interview turned into a 40-minute interview, but that,
No way.
That's impossible to do 15 minutes, especially when it's been so long we've talked to each other. So,
especially when we're both so passionate about what it is that we do.
Exactly. Maybe 20 years on the road, we'll be like, oh, yeah, investigated, but it's not for tomorrow.
I pity my friends sometimes who aren't in the group because they listen to stuff they really probably don't want to hear over and over again.
Yeah, it's so true. So thank you so much again. I'll keep you posted. I'll post the link of the podcast. It would be possible to post it as one. So I'll probably just download it so the videos just play one after the other on YouTube. Otherwise, it'll be like a 6 hour. Nobody can do 6 hours in a row.
No, and we will definitely share it on our Taps home team pages when you put it up. So
perfect. And I'm gonna call Cody at 2 this afternoon and talk with him. And I'm sure talking with Cody will be more than 15 minutes too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You might have to have a whole special link just for the two of us.
Yes, exactly. I'll post both of you together as Taps home team. That's for sure. I'd love to talk to Joe too, but the thing is that I could actually, film my next 6 months of podcast right now, just this weekend.
Well, we should set up a time sometime soon where we can get as many of the team on the line as we can and all talk together.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that. That would be a good idea to have, maybe to get you guys like 30 minutes before you leave for an investigation, so you'll all be pumped up, and just to see the the interaction you guys have before an investigation. That would be cool.
Awesome. We definitely can do that. I will start working on that for you.
Oh, perfect, Tracy. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one. Happy Halloween.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.